سي لا ديستو نو كارتييه هاك تشوف الاحوال عايشين باللي فما سيختوف باتاك جي با كوندو ما سانتور ما عندي قلب حجر على هذاك خارج في براكاج باش ولدي ما يموتليش بالشر عمري ما استجرمت عمري ما براكيت بكيت قبل ما نمشي خايف لولدي يكبر تحت الحيط عادي اذا تشديت واذا ذقت الخل نحملها اذا ذقت المر باش ولدي غدوه يفوق العسل.
On the 17th of December 2010, a 26-year-old Tunisian man was humiliated by a municipal officer and her aides after they confiscated his goods. He walked to the town hall to lodge a complaint, but it fell on deaf ears. In protest, he purchased a can of fuel and set himself on fire.
The success of Tunisian protests inspired protests in several other Arab countries, plus several non-Arab countries. The protests included several men who emulated Bouazizi's act of self-immolation in an attempt to bring an end to their own autocratic governments. These men and Bouazizi were hailed by Arab commentators as heroic martyrs of the new Middle Eastern revolution.
Je suis là, Balti ديما شاد بلاصتو 1 2 بالتي نمبو بان شكون نبختو توجور فور من غير بروتين اسمي معروف على اليسار على اليمين 5 في العين توجور لا ضربوا يا ديما الفوق ضربوا عدوك ديما الفوق ما توصليش طريقي كله.
In this small, closely knit town, word travelled fast. Bouazizi's frustration struck a chord both here and across the Arab world.
Mohammed burned himself because he had no job, no money, and no prospects.
The next day, hundreds of people gathered at the spot where Mohammed had set himself alight. Men and women who, like him, struggled to make ends meet and felt their government wasn't listening to them. Among them were two of his friends, Wissam Gidri and Bassam Shikri.
The people started shouting and asking questions in front of the town hall, asking the governor why Bouazizi had burned himself and no one had listened. Slowly, the situation started to heat up.
Demonstrations were almost unheard of in Tunisia, but in every protester's pocket was a tool to show the world what happened: a mobile phone.
The public's anger and violence intensified following Bouazizi's death, leading then President Zain El Abidine Ben Ali to step down on the 14th of January 2011 after 23 years in power.
For these demonstrators in front of the building that now houses an elected parliament, it was jobs and economics that brought them into the streets. Unemployment was 13% when the revolution began and has soared to 19% a year later. Tunisia's revolution coincided with the debt crisis in Europe and a generally sluggish world economy. Additionally, according to Tunisia Live news founder Ziad Mehersi, Tunisia's tourism is in a deep recession. The parliament is dominated by Nahda, Tunisia's mainstream Islamic party. It swept October elections with 41% of the vote. Human rights activist Intisar Hariji is a Nahda party member who returned to Tunisia after 20 years in exile in London. She counsels patience with a government that has been in power less than 2 months.
I think what's important is that you have people in government who are serious about reform, and they're there to make change. They're not there to steal, they're there to build. Just as, if you look at history, the American democratic system, the American Revolution, took a while to transform into a stable democratic system.
Nahda party leaders have said that the new assembly will not introduce Sharia law or other Islamic concepts to the new constitution. Intisar Khariji, daughter of Nahda party leader Rashid Ghanouchi, defends her party's stance toward women. She says that the fact that Nahda has 42 female representatives in the parliament speaks of its intention to help women succeed in the public as well as the private domain.
I think you can take a look at the Nahda women in the assembly and see the kind of work they do. Many of them are professors, many of them are lawyers, many of them are doctors. They are entirely representative of the Nahda mainstream. All my three sisters are doing PhDs, and there's been always a spirit of education within our household, because without education you can't build a democratic society.
Suhail Bentashima recently returned from Russia, where he studied engineering to start a plastics company in Tunisia.
I came back to participate in the revolution, to build my country, because I think like everyone here, every Tunisian citizen is responsible to improve the economy.
And I think what happened with the Tunisian revolution is that it gave people the belief that actually these governments are not as omnipotent as we thought they are. And I think Tunisia, given its position, given its resources, and given its people, I think has a real shot at building a real democratic society.
I feel that in 3 or 4 years, which is really a short amount of time, we're going to see a totally different Tunisia. We're going to see a new generation in power. We're going to see that Tunisia is going to be more open to the rest of the world.
Tunisians are still waiting for answers to their current economic problems and for Parliament to create a constitution that guarantees civil rights for all. Political struggles will most likely continue until the next elections and until democracy is fully entrenched. As for now, history will forever memorialize Mohamed Bouazizi's heroic act as the spark that not only started the Tunisian Revolution, but the entire Arab Spring.
بارتي ديما شاد بلاصتو 1 2 بارتي نمبو بان شكون نبختو توجو فوق من غير بروتين اسمي معروف على اليسار على اليمين 5 في العين توجو لا ضربوا يا ديما الفوق ضربوا عدوك ديما الفوق ما توصليش طريقي كله شوق شاد الكرسي حتى حد ما ينجم يغور تحب تغور دور ما تتلفتش وراك لا تموت مدغور من حومتي لاخر نقطة في البلاد ولد بلاد معروف اكثر من الزرقاوي في بغداد ريزا نعمل كيف ما عمل بلادن في كوش كوش كوافتيك بديت الرابي انتي لابس كوش